Good morning. I'm Ralph Albert Thomas, CEO and Executive Director of the New Jersey Society of CPAs. And thank you for joining us for this special edition of Issues Watch Live. Since news about the coronavirus and its impact on New Jersey CPAs, businesses, and individuals continues to come at us with lightning speed, we are bringing you this second live update. After running through some of the important developments that have come out since our broadcast last Friday, we're going to spend the majority of our time on two main topics: the New Jersey Economic Development Authority's new loan and grant programs, and an overview of the provisions of the CARES Act. This morning, I'm joined by Jeff Kaszerman, the Society's Vice President of Government Relations, and our special guest today is Laura Gunn, Director of Government Relations for the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. Thank you both for joining us, Jeff and Laura.
Thanks for having us.
Well, we invite you to submit any questions that you may have in the comments field or email them to us at feedback@njcpa.org. We'll try to answer them either during the broadcast, or if not, we will research and get more information required, and we'll post answers after the broadcast. We may not have the answers to all of the questions that you may have, but we'll do our best. NJCPA members, remember that you can also post questions to the open forum on Connect at connect.njcpa.org. We also have with us today Don Meyer, the Society's Chief Marketing Officer, with us. He, along with Rachel Bell, our Content and Communications Director, will be monitoring the questions behind the scenes, and Don may pop in from time to time with fewer questions. So let's get started with the big news of the week, the New Jersey tax filing deadline. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. This past Wednesday morning, Governor Murphy announced that New Jersey's tax filing deadline would be extended from April 15th to July 15th. This was certainly welcome news, and it comes after 2 weeks of tireless efforts by our staff, NJCPA staff, our members, and our friends in the governor's office and legislatures. That being said, we know many of you still have questions about what exactly is covered in the extension. The questions we've received from members the questions that we have received from our members, concern quarterly estimated payments, C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, sales tax, and estate and trusts. It's important to note, and I think that this is not really known very well, but it's important to note that although the governor said there would be an extension to July 15th, no enabling legislation has been enacted. That means that until something is passed and signed, there aren't any answers for many of your questions. However, some sort of legislation, which will have more clarity than the bill sitting on the governor's desk right now, is expected to be introduced and signed soon. Meanwhile, we are in touch with the division, the governor's office, and legislative leaders. So the NJCPA is representing the profession, so there's no need for you to reach out on your own. We'll let you know as soon as something concrete develops. In other New Jersey news, questions have been raised about withholding taxes for employees who are now telecommuting from an out-of-state office. The Division of Taxation has released guidance that during this temporary coronavirus emergency, wage income will continue to be sourced based on the employer's jurisdiction. You can see all the FAQs on this issue at the link on your screen. So now back over to Ralph.
Thanks, Jeff. And again, to our members, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to submit them to us. Also, as Jess mentioned, as soon as we get information, we will be posting that information to on our website so that you can have that information firsthand. During our last broadcast, I mentioned that the business coalition that the NJCPA is part of, it includes more than 40 major businesses and nonprofit associations in New Jersey. On Wednesday, the coalition released a set of recommendations to Governor Murphy and the legislative leaders regarding a COVID-19 legislative administrative relief package. The proposals will bring, hopefully, immediate assistance to many small businesses, nonprofits, and independent contractors in the state. You can read the full set of recommendations at the link on your screen, and we will provide regular updates on this initiative. Moving on to a few national issues, there were a number of recent announcements from the IRS. They have been published, the IRS has published FAQs on the economic impact payments that many taxpayers will start receiving in about 3 weeks. They answer questions such as who's eligible, where the payments will be sent, which tax return payment it will be based on, and more. You can access the FAQs at the link on your screen. The IRS has also begun temporarily accepting scanned or photographed images of signatures and digital signatures on documents. And they are allowing IRS employees to accept documents via email and to transmit documents to taxpayers using Secure Zip or other established messaging systems. Gift tax returns and generation skipping transfer tax returns have been added to the list of returns that are now due by July 15th instead of April 15th. The AICPA is calling for the IRS to address a number of additional issues, including the due dates of additional forms and elections, such as the election to be taxed as a small business, need additional time. The first quarter individual and corporate estimates, which are typically due on April 15th, were deferred to July 15th. However, the IRS has not yet extended the second quarter deadline, which is still set at June 15th. Other returns due between March 3rd and July 15th, such as for certain estate exempt organizations and other businesses, also need relief. U.S. citizens living abroad or non-resident taxpayers who can't leave may also be challenged to file. Treasury and IRS should offer generous and automatic relief for other tax returns, information returns, elections, correspondence, and payments not already covered by the previous relief, but related to COVID-19. Before we move on, again, I just wanted to state, if you're joining us, welcome. I'm Ralph Albert Thomas, CEO and Executive Director of the New Jersey Society of CPAs, and I'm joined today by Jeff Kaszerman, the Society's Vice President of Government Relations, and Laura Gunn, the Governmental Relations Director at the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. Again, we invite you to submit your questions in the comments box or email them to us at feedback@njcpa.org. Now, let's turn to our special guest today, Laura, to learn about some incredible and new loan and grant programs being offered by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Laura?
Thanks, Ralph. And again, thank you for having me on the program today. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is offering 7 new programs designed to support businesses and workers facing economic hardship due to the coronavirus pandemic. Here's a brief description of each program. The Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program is a $5 million program that will provide grants up to $5,000 to small businesses in retail, arts, entertainment, recreation, accommodation, food service, and other services such as repair, maintenance, personal, and laundry services to stabilize their operations and reduce the need for layoffs or furloughs. The Small Business Emergency Assistance Loan Program is a $10 million program that will provide working capital loans of up to $100,000 to businesses with less than $5 million in revenues. Loans made through the program will have 10-year terms with 0% interest for the first 5 years, then resetting to the EDA's prevailing floor rate, capped at 3%, for the remaining 5 years. The Community Development Finance Institution, or CDFI Emergency Loan Loss Reserve Fund, is a $10 million capital reserve fund to take a first loss position on CDFI loans that provide low interest working capital to micro businesses. This will allow CDFIs to withstand loan defaults due to the outbreak, which will allow them to provide more loans at lower interest rates to micro businesses also affected by the outbreak. The CDFI Emergency Assistance Grant Program is a $1.25 million program that will provide grants of up to $250,000 to CDFIs to scale operations or reduce interest rates for the duration of the outbreak. And then we have the New Jersey Entrepreneur Support Program, and it's a $5 million program that will encourage continued capital flows to new companies, often in the innovation economy, and temporarily support a shaky market by providing 80% loan guarantees for working capital loans to entrepreneurs. The Small Business Emergency Assistance Guarantee Program, separate from the grant program, is a $10 million program that will provide 50% guarantees on working capital loans and waive fees on loans made through institutions participating in the NJCPA's existing Premier Lender or Premier CDFI programs. And then we have the Emergency Technical Assistance Program. It's a $150,000 program that will support technical assistance to New Jersey-based companies applying for assistance through the U.S. Small Business Administration. The organizations contracted will be paid based on SBA application submissions supported by the technical assistance they provide. Now, if businesses need assistance determining what they may be eligible for, the NJEDA has an online business support eligibility wizard. It's available at assistance.business.nj.gov. I also wanted to mention, although I'm sure many of you are already aware, that this morning the NJEDA started accepting applications for the first program that I talked about, the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant. The other program applications will be available soon, and completed applications will be considered on a first-come, first-served rolling basis. Also this morning, Jersey City announced that they will match all grants made to city businesses by the NJEDA's Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program. The match will be between $1,000 and $5,000, depending on the size of the EDA grants. And Ralph, I will turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Laura. I hope many New Jersey business owners take advantage of these much needed programs. Now let's turn to the CARES Act. And Laura, we're going to put you back on deck here. I know there's a lot to the act. Can you give us an overview on it?
Sure. We actually just had the U.S. Chamber of Commerce have a conference call with us last week at the State Chamber, and they gave us a really great overview of the program and answered a lot of really great questions. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, better known as the CARES Act, was signed into law by President Trump on March 27th. It authorizes more than $2 trillion in spending, including a number of financial relief measures for individuals and businesses. One of the provisions getting widespread attention is the economic impact payments Ralph mentioned earlier. These are actually rebates or advance refunds of a 2020 tax credit. The payments will be calculated based on taxpayers' 2019 returns or 2018 returns for those who have not yet filed a 2019 return. Single taxpayers will receive up to $1,200, joint filers will receive up to $2,400, and there will be $500 for each qualifying child. The credit starts to phase out at an adjusted gross income of $75,000 for singles, $112,500 for heads of household, and $150,000 for joint filers. IRS has confirmed that Social Security beneficiaries who are not typically required to file tax returns will not need to file an abbreviated tax return to receive an economic impact payment. Recipients will receive these payments as a direct deposit or by paper check, just as they would normally receive their benefits. The credit will ultimately be reconciled on taxpayers' 2020 tax returns. Taxpayers who were underpaid will receive the balance of the credit, and those who were overpaid will not have to refund the balance. FAQs about the economic impact payment are available at the link on your screen. The other issue generating a lot of attention and questions is the Small Business Paycheck Protection Program. And I can tell you we've gotten a lot of questions about this at the State Chamber as well. It's a new $349 billion lending program modeled on the existing SBA 7A program with 100% government guarantee. The application process opened today as well. Businesses that are eligible include small businesses as defined by SBA size standards. This is generally up to 500 employees, but it can be up to 1,500 employees depending on the sector, and certain sectors are based on revenue. Other businesses that are eligible are businesses in the accommodation and food services with up to 500 employees at each location, 501c3 nonprofits with fewer than 500 employees, sole proprietors, the self-employed, and independent contractors, which from my understanding is relatively new to this program. The SBA issued interim guidance this morning that provides more clarity on several issues and changes the interest rate on loans made under the program from 0.5% to 1%, a change the American Bankers Association said would encourage banks of all sizes to participate in the program. You can access the interim guidance at the link on your screen as well.
Thanks, Laura. A lot going on these days. As you noted, the PPP application process started today. A few days ago, the AICPA issued some recommendations for CPA firms that are looking to help their clients with the application process. They are: visit the Treasury webpage at treasury.gov/cares and review all 4 documents in the Assistance for Small Business section. Share the application, share the application and borrower guide with clients as soon as possible if you haven't already done so. Contact your local banker to discuss the lender guide to ensure that they are aware of program requirements. It is the AICPA's understanding that virtually all banks and credit unions will be able to process program applications, but you should verify that your bank intends to support the program. One really important note: the lender guide lists accountants as approved agents of loan applications. The Treasury guidance says that agents may not collect any fees from the applicant and that agent fees will be paid out of lender fees. This is obviously concerning to many of our CPAs. The AICPA yesterday issued a statement that reads in part: it is our understanding that the limitation on fees relates to fees for assistance in the preparation of a loan application for a loan available under the Payroll Protection Program. If a CPA firm is charging fees for advising the small business and deciding whether which loan program or tax relief program is best for their business, we think it is reasonable for those fees would fall outside of the provision of the CARES Act. Thus, a firm can perform services outside of loan preparation assistance, and those fees would be paid by the client. That being said, many firms are opting not to charge their clients any fees for the PPP-related services anyway. We also know that members have various questions about the PPP program, many of which concern the calculation of salaries. The AICPA has some downloadable PP loan calculators and worksheets that you can share with your clients. They are also available at the link on your screen and will work together with the AICPA to get answers to other questions. Laura, I'm going to go back to you about the CARES Act. We're really getting our money's worth today, aren't we?
Happy to provide the service and great working with you all. So there are also some CARES Act provisions related to Small Business Administration loans. The Act includes $17 billion for the SBA to cover 6 months of payments for businesses with current SBA loans. There are numerous changes to the SBA's economic injury disaster loans, or as they say at the federal level, EIDL, EIDL. Loans can be made based solely on credit scores. Loans are available to all nonprofits, including 501c6s. Loans below $200,000 can be approved without a personal guarantee. And borrowers can receive $10,000 cash advances that are forgiven if spent on paid leave, maintaining payroll, increased costs due to supply chain disruption, mortgage or lease payments, or repaying obligations that cannot be met due to revenue losses. And here are a few of the other CARES Act provisions specific to individuals. Required minimum pension contributions due in 2020 can be delayed until January 1, 2021, plus interest. Required minimum distributions from retirement plans and IRAs for 2020 have been waived. COVID-19 related distributions from retirement accounts can be taken penalty-free up to $100,000. During the covered period, a borrower with a federally backed mortgage loan experiencing financial hardship due directly or indirectly to the COVID-19 emergency may request forbearance, regardless of delinquency status. Covered period is 60 days with allowable extensions of up to 4 periods of 30 days each. Unemployment insurance has been extended by 13 weeks and includes a 4-month enhancement of benefits. And there is a large expansion of who is eligible to apply for unemployment compensation, including those who are unemployed or underemployed due to one or more of the following. They have a coronavirus diagnosis or present symptoms and are seeking medical attention. They have a household member with a coronavirus diagnosis. They are caring for a family member who has been diagnosed. There are school or daycare closures and the individual is the primary child caregiver. Their workplace has been locked down. They have been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine. The individual was about to start a job that is no longer available because of coronavirus. The individual is now the breadwinner of a household because someone has unfortunately died from coronavirus, and the individual had to quit because of a circumstance resulting from coronavirus. And lastly, the individual's place of work is closed because of coronavirus. So any of those different situations would qualify for unemployment expansion. Note that these provisions do not apply to an individual who can telework with pay, and they do not cover someone getting paid sick leave or paid family leave. The unemployment provisions run from January 27th to December 31st, 2020, and the federal government will pick up 100% of the cost. There are also some provisions in the CARES Act related to student loans. The Act requires the Secretary of Education to defer student loan payments, principal and interest, through September 30th, 2020, without borrower penalty. Reporting to credit agencies is suspended, as is all voluntary collection on defaulted student loans, including wage garnishment and reduction in tax refunds or other government-provided benefits. Jeff, do you want to talk about some of the business tax provisions?
Yeah, sure. I am certainly not a tax expert, but I can run through an overview of the main points. In addition to the Paycheck Protection Program, that's hard to say, I'll just say PPP, we already discussed that. The CARES Act also includes the following benefits for businesses. There's an employer retention credit for employers subject to closure due to coronavirus. This permits a fully refundable 50% tax credit applicable to the employer's share of payroll taxes on wages up to $10,000 per employee. It is widely available with special rules for small employers. The bill provides for advanced refunding of the payroll tax credits enacted in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That's a tough one to say, too. The IRS has posted the new Form 7200 and related instructions to allow employers whose payroll tax credits exceed their employment tax deposits to receive an advance payment of the credit. It covers the employee retention credits, the credit for qualified sick leave wages, and the qualified family leave wages. You can access the form and instructions at the link on your screen. When it comes to payroll taxes, employers can delay payment of the employer's share of the Social Security tax due between now and January 1st, 2021. There are modifications for net operating losses. For 2018, 19, and 20, losses can be carried back 5 years. The 80% limitation has been temporarily suspended, and this provision extends to pass-through businesses and sole proprietors. The limitation on businesses, the limitation on business interest has been modified. For 2019 and 20, the 30% limitation has increased to 50%. There are a number of other business provisions, and you can learn more by visiting the link and attending the webinars listed on your screen. Back to you, Ralph.
Thanks, Jeff. Just want to check with Don and to see if we have any questions that have come in or comments.
Actually, we have a few questions. This first one's probably for Jeff, but I'm going to paraphrase it. The member referenced the grassroots campaign we did earlier this week to the governor's office, and he asked if the NJCPA needs help reaching out to the legislature or division to get some of those answers on the tax deadline that we're seeking.
No, I would not do that. While the grassroots was appropriate for trying to get the governor to, sign the bill, with the kind of, getting answers to questions and so on, that's something we can do better directly with with NJCPA staff or leadership reaching out to the division, the legislature, and so on. If we do grassroots there with lots of people, calling or writing or emailing, it'll make the whole process much more complicated and confusing.
And Jeff, too, we're working with our tax committee, our state tax committee. That group has a great relationship with the Division of Taxation. And we've been in constant contact with the relationships that we have with folks within the division, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But is it fair to say that if we needed grassroots outreach from our members, we would activate it again? Because it was very successful with the governor's office.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. The next question is related to all the PPP questions that we've been receiving. The question was, is the AICPA or the society, are there other resources that the AICPA is planning to release? I can partially answer this question. I know that we have reached out to the AICPA and they said that they're working on things like webinars or webcasts. We're not sure what those additional resources are going to look like, but they hopefully will be providing some additional information, because if you read our open forum, there's a ton of PPP related questions on there. So I don't know, Ralph, do you have any additional guidance on that?
No, I think you're right on spot, Don, in that they're also looking, obviously, with the IRS release of information and Treasury, there was some things that AICPA was also trying to get to. They're still working on those too. We just had a webinar. When I say we, state society CEOs across the country with Barry to get an update on the PPP initiative as well, and about questions. So as soon as we get information, we will be posting that information to our website for our members to have and put out alerts on them. But I would also suggest, to the extent that members have questions, certainly don't hesitate to shoot those questions to us, and we can make sure that we forward them on to AICPA, or in the case of if you have questions relative to the Economic Development Authority new initiatives, I'm certain that Laura would be able to help us and our relationships with the other business associations that we are involved with.
Okay, a couple more questions. And this is the part of the show where we say, well, if you guys don't know the answer, or if you don't know a resource where someone can find the answer, don't worry about it. We'll just let them know. But we thought we'd throw out that question. And I'm going to apologize in advance if I have to squint, because I'm actually reading this off of the giant screen in our boardroom. It says, the company I work for is based in New York City. Now that I'm working home in New Jersey for an extended period of time, should I still be paying the New York State taxes?
No idea.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we'll research that with folks on our tax committee, and I may even have to give a call to my counterparts in New York on that.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll wrap up. And this one is very specific, so you may not know the answer to this one either. Can owners of an S corporation collect unemployment insurance, or should they apply under PPP?
No idea.
Yeah, again,
If I can jump in real quick,
Go ahead.
Oh,
Laura.
Laura's got the
Ralph,
answer.
if that's okay.
Okay,
Only because we
sure.
talked about it yesterday, and I don't know if I have the exact answer, and I feel like we're waiting on some guidance from the federal government. But something that the U.S. Chamber had told us last night was that people should certainly apply, and the worst that could happen is they get denied, but you don't want to miss out on that opportunity to, because if you're potentially eligible. So we've seen, and I think I talked about it a little bit earlier on in the program, that there are certain programs available for sole proprietors. I know the question was about S corporations, but I don't know that the unemployment would apply. The New Jersey Department of Labor has some really great guidance on there, so my suggestion would be to check there first. The other part of it is the federal government with the PPP. You may have better luck there, but like I said, I can't say for sure. My suggestion would be to apply and see what happens instead of losing out on that opportunity if you find out later on that you were eligible and didn't apply.
Thank you, Laura.
Great, thanks,
all right,
Laura.
Sure.
One more question, and this might also be for Laura. What about companies that were not mandated to close, but chose to in a response to the request to stay at home? Do they qualify for relief?
I could take that one too if you'd like.
Okay,
Yes, please.
sure.
Yes.
Okay. So my suggestion again would be to apply for that relief. I think some of the criteria that I rattled off earlier would probably include businesses, as long as you can show that you either, it depends on the program that you're applying for, really. So if you're looking for the paycheck protection, you're looking for the employee retention credit, that kind of thing, you need to demonstrate that you either kept your employees on payroll or that you have some type of guarantee that you're going to bring them back onto payroll because of the coronavirus affecting your business. And then the other part of it was if you can demonstrate that there was a certain amount of lost revenue, I think that's another huge qualifier. So again, I don't want to say for certain because these are new programs and we're still waiting on some guidance to come out. But as far as I understand, I would be more inclined if I was a small business owner or an S corporation to really apply for those and see what happens with that. I would rather somebody apply and find out, what's the worst that can happen is that you're denied, as opposed to finding out down the road that, oh, maybe I was eligible, but now I missed my opportunity, because these programs are going to go by really quickly. And there's some talk about the federal government coming back to come up with more of a stimulus package because they're worried that these programs are going to be gone before we know it.
Thank you,
Thank
Laura.
you, Laura.
I just want to add, back on the New Jersey Economic Development Program, which opened up today. As a result, we had a call with the commissioner there, and he said the program is going to open today. It opened at 9 o'clock, I believe, right, Laura? And
Yes.
He said chances are this program is going to be, done by next Friday at the latest, or at the earliest. So I want to stress to our members, please encourage your clients to apply early while there's funding still available. So I can't emphasize that enough. And this was coming from the commissioner and his staff, or the folks at EDA, that they thought that this program, when opening today, would probably be shut down by Friday because of all the people that are businesses that are being affected today.
they're shutting down because of the coronavirus, right, Ralph?
Well, no, not shutting down. They're just shutting down because
That was a
you know,
joke.
the application. I figured that was a joke, Jeff. That's why I was responding back to you because I know you drove them. Well, I think if there are no more questions right now, I think I certainly want to thank Jeff and Laura and our team here at the Society, Don Meyer and Rachel Bell. And this, I think, just about wraps up our broadcast unless Jeff or Laura have any more thoughts. Okay.
Well, no,
Okay.
I'm good.
Great. All right. We want to thank all of you for joining us today. Hopefully you found this helpful and informative. We'll continue to post updates on our website and on social media, as well as our member open forum on Connect. And we hope to bring you more of these video sessions. Again, I want to thank Jeff and Laura and our team here, Don, Rachel, and I can't forget Mark Rain, our behind the scenes video maestro of the video and Facebook Live. But again, do not hesitate to send us your questions because we will be monitoring our sites, even though we're also working remotely. And so we want to make sure we try to help our members as much as possible with their questions that they have and get them to the right people to get answers to those questions. All right, I think that wraps it up. I want to say to everyone, again, thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and most importantly, stay safe and healthy.